Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Coming to Independent Lens.
To be or not to be? That is the question.
Hard work and determination. Strong qualities in any teenager.
I have to finish school. That is not a choice.
But when you're homeless, they are essential.
I really want to go to college.
Join Alaska Public Media on Friday, April 17th from 12 to 1 p.m. for a screening of The Homestretch, chat, and conversation about homeless teens. More at alaskapublic.org.
The National Weather Service.
Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. We've got a, there we go. Got a winter storm warning out until noon tomorrow, Wednesday, for the Kobuk and Noatak Valley areas here, as well as the western Arctic coast there. For northeast winds, visibility is down to a quarter mile or less, some cases whiteout conditions there with those winds gusting to 40, 45 miles an hour, and looking for anywhere from 1 to 4 inches of snow here, especially over the Nulato Hills. That's where the winter weather advisory is out for tonight for the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coast there for winds, conditions not as bad as the west side here, but still visibility is down to a half mile or less at times with winds gusting 40 to 45 miles an hour, and still have the high wind warning out for the Alaska Range here, especially the eastern Alaska Range west of the Tote Cutoff, and for Denali Park and Healy, local gusts to 70 miles per hour till about 10 p.m. Then that should drop by then as that storm currently moving northward should be weakened enough that the winds come down below warning levels on those gusts. And see winter weather advisories extending down to the McGrath area and Grayling, or just not McGrath, but down to Grayling here along the Yukon River. And on the satellite, out west, here's the next storm system, bringing 40 to 50 mile per hour winds this afternoon into the western Aleutians, and that's forecast to bring gales to the central Aleutians and even storm force winds to the south central Bering Sea tonight and into tomorrow. And you see the jet stream coming up and then cutting through just like right about in this position here. Very strong westerly is going to drive the whole system eastward into the Gulf of Alaska in the next couple of days. Meanwhile, we have a pretty good south to north flow here. You can see the low pressure area wound up off Kodiak earlier, brought over an inch of rain to Kodiak Island. Improved though, and the winds turned west-southwest. A fair amount of sunshine breaking out there, as well as areas in the downsloping on the lee side of the mountain ranges here. Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet, once the front went through, cleared out to partly sunny skies, a few showers around, but you can see the holes opening up in the clouds as the front passes the Alaska Range. And some good solid rain from Cordova over to Yakutat today, with rain into Elfin Cove, and as far east as Juneau picking up some rainfall, and as far south as Sitka, possibly Port Alexander. So that front gradually moves eastward, another wave right in through here lifting northward. There's a position earlier today, the front just coming up across northern Cook Inlet late this morning, the low center right in about this position here, 972 millibars. That'll fill as it moves to the north and northwest. And there's the next system out to the west, moving quite rapidly. You'll see for tonight, moves all the way to the eastern Aleutians, again with the gale force winds here along the Aleutians, storm force winds in closer to the main center as it pulls eastward. That'll cover the south central Bering Sea areas. And then this storm keeping the winter weather advisories and warnings going for the Seward Peninsula and the Noatak Valley areas, Kivalina. Still looking at a lot of snow and blowing snow tonight for the western Alaska or western Arctic coast, and then gusty winds keeping the winter weather advisories along the central and eastern Beaufort Sea coastline to the north. Look for scattered showers here. Pretty good snow most of the day at Iliamna as that colder air comes in. Freezing levels will drop down to the surface, so whatever precipitation is left will be in the form of snow later tonight through Cook Inlet and up into the interior valleys. Kind of a mixture of rain or snow along the North Gulf Coast. And that front having a little trouble pushing to the east. Rainfall area about where it was today, keeping the southern areas dry, at least through tonight, and then possibly even a portion of tomorrow as well. It really doesn't move all that much from this position, gradually getting just past Yakutat there for should become a little more showery, and the freezing levels dropping. So look for snow all the way down to sea level here for the North Gulf Coast, especially back over South Central tomorrow as the upper trough kicks through. Pretty good chance of some snow, could pick up 1 to 2 inches in areas kind of like we saw on the weekend. Scattered snow showers through the interior. The main front now up along the Arctic coast, so starting out pretty windy there, and then gradual improvement throughout the day with the low now up to 986 millibars. This one driving eastward across the Bering Sea in the front, spreading rain to the Alaska Peninsula, rain or snow into Bristol Bay, and just snow here for the Yukon Delta. Back around, bringing the cold air back into the Pribilofs, gusty northwest winds, gale force west-northwesterlies, bringing snow showers. Numerous snow showers become more scattered down toward the Aleutians, with the front dropping just south of the Aleutian chain there. And then on Thursday, a broad area, west-northwest winds. It's all cold air with freezing levels coming down to near sea level. Even for the Alaska Peninsula, could see some blowing snow developing in areas here on the lee side of the peninsula and Aleutian Range, but snow showers all the way out to Shimia, Attu, the whole Bering Sea practically covered with snow showers and a colder air mass. Low center driving eastward to just near the Barren Islands, the front moving to about this position. One band of showers moves through the Panhandle, a little bit of a break, and then the rain with this system catching up. And so it looks like a pretty wet day there for northern southeast coast back to Yakutat, Cordova. Mixture of precipitation in over Prince William Sound, Valdez, Whittier. Some moisture may make it as far west as Anchorage or Palmer, but nothing too much farther than that. You can see pretty dry up across the Alaska Range. Into the Tanana Valley, just a few hit and miss isolated snow showers through the north central interior of the Koyukuk Valley, and especially along the Arctic coast there, maybe the North Slope. But winds will be diminishing considerably from what they were today here on the east side. Even winds on the west side will be coming down over the next couple of days. Temperatures for the Panhandle, mid to upper 40s, some cases 50 degrees, 54 over at Stewart, one of the warmest spots around, 42 at Yakutat, 39 in Valdez, 45. South winds gusting about 40 miles an hour along the Copper River there at Gulkana. 46 Delta Junction, seeing gusts close to 40 miles an hour again. Could see isolated gusts up to 70 tonight as that low center pulls northward, and then they'll drop back off tomorrow morning. 46 in Fairbanks, cooler 25-degree reading at Fort Yukon, but Bettles up to 33. Anatuvik 21, 19 at Arctic Village. Temperatures a little above zero here along the Arctic coast, from 1 at Dead Horse, 4 at Kaktovik. That same reading at Barrow, 2 degrees at Point Lay. A lot of snow and blowing snow occurring on the western side here. 27 at Buckland, or that 31 in Kotzebue. Same reading there at Nome, with 16 out at Gamble, St. Lawrence Island. Otherwise 46 in McGrath, 10 degrees cooler down at Sleep Mute, with 33 there at Bethel, and a 28 reading out at St. Mary's with Macoriac, 30 degrees there, 31 with a fair amount of snow today at Iliamna. Mid-30s here for Bristol Bay, King Salmon. Upper 30s, Alaska Peninsula to Unalaska, and then near 40 out over the central and western Aleutian zones. Forecast lows for tonight, near freezing there for the Pribilofs, above freezing for all of the Aleutian chain, dropping into the upper 20s for Bristol Bay, lower to mid-20s over the southwest interior, and near or a little below zero for the Arctic coast, especially areas here at the North Slope, but the other side of the mountains there, teens and 20s to mid to upper 20s, lower to mid-30s for south central Alaska, cooler over the Copper River Basin, mid-20s there, especially where there's any clearing. In the southeast coast, upper 30s to lower to mid-40s. And the highs tomorrow, mid-40s to lower 50s again, warmest in the south, coolest in the north, and lower to mid-40s over the southeast interior of the state, to upper 30s to lower 40s, coldest north of the Brooks Range there and toward the Arctic coast, and in the teens from the Bering Strait down to St. Lawrence Island, mid-30s for the Pribilofs, lower 40s for the Aleutians, except out west staying in the upper 30s. Flying weather, look for IFR from the southern Kenai Peninsula coast across southern Prince William Sound, maybe even up into the western portion of the sound there, Passage Canal toward Portage. And then along the coast, across the northern panhandle, marginal VFR down the remainder of the panhandle here. Could be a little iffy, may not get that low. Could stay VFR the entire day over the southern panhandle, Prince of Wales Island, Metlakatla, Annette in those areas, but got marginal VFR in the forecast. IFR here for the southwest coast, southwest portion of Kodiak Island, across the Aleutian Range and Peninsula, and then some IFR around the Pribilofs. Otherwise, marginal VFR northward to the western Arctic coast. Could start out with some IFR up here and then improving gradually throughout the day. Hit and miss marginal conditions out over the Aleutians. Anatuvik looks good, VFR on either approach and through the pass. Adigan, same forecast, good VFR. Lake Clark and Merrill, marginal VFR. And that forecast also for rain, occasionally marginal throughout the day Wednesday. Windy, IFR possible in the southern entrance, otherwise marginal VFR to VFR on the north side in the Tanana Valley. Isabel, same pattern there, IFR conditions possible in the south entrance, higher to the north. And for Mentasta, possible marginal VFR on the southern entrance, otherwise VFR. Tanita, maybe some marginal stuff on the east side. And Portage, same pattern, lowest on the east side, higher conditions on the west entrance. So go marginal VFR with IFR east entrance. And Chilkoot and White, they have IFR in the forecast. Freezing levels, some leftover pockets of about 2,000 feet here up over the interior. Otherwise at the surface through Bristol Bay and up along the North Gulf Coast. Icing, occasional moderate rime here along the southwest coast and Alaska Peninsula. Also up over the Selawik, Kobuk Valley areas, and then along the Arctic coast. And some occasional moderate rime, widespread moderate rime or mixed icing coming up. Just entering the coastal areas of the Panhandle, mostly the central and north coast, with some lighter stuff edging its way eastward. And that kind of pulls back to the west across south central Alaska, mostly due to upper trough that's swinging through from the southwest. 18,000 foot wind flow chart showing a good jet here coming across the Aleutians. That's driving that next system, low center there, rapidly eastward. And again, on Thursday, it'll be into the Gulf of Alaska. And this is the trough kind of right through here that'll be coming through, bringing a chance of snow across south central Alaska later tonight and tomorrow. 9,000 foot winds, pretty strong up here with this low as it pulls back to the west and weakens. 30 to 40 knots in the interior, still looking pretty brisk up along the Arctic coast. And west-southwesterlies 30 to 40 across the southern Bering Sea. Again, these storm warnings out in this area. Good gales down across the Aleutians. Lighter winds up toward Bristol Bay. Same pattern at 3,000 feet. Strongest here, 55 knots with the low center coming rapidly eastward. That's going to drive into Bristol Bay tomorrow night. And again, into the Gulf of Alaska on Thursday. South winds 20 to 35 knots, strongest to the west here, but lighter to the east. And the Panhandle, narrow band of fairly good winds here right along the coastline with that low front that's trying to push its way eastward. Turbulence, occasional moderate chop. Port Alexander on down to the Queen Charlottes with light to isolated moderate here in the gold shaded areas. Same thing through the west central interior. That low pulling back. Could be some pretty good wind maxes, making it a little bumpy in that area. Continued along the Arctic coast and a fairly widespread area of moderate chop here for the Pribilofs, the Alaska Peninsula, all the way out to the Aleutians, but probably not reaching the Komodorskis. And after the break, I'll be back to look at the marine forecasts.
Ladies and gentlemen, please leave this area. Leave it now.
Hi, I'm Craig Goodrich, Fire Marshal for the state of Alaska. I'd like to talk to you before we get started with the upcoming video to tell you that conditions are extremely dry right now in the state. There have been a number of forest fires so far. We want to avoid another disastrous year like we had in 1996 at the Miller's Reach fire. The video that is upcoming will have a variety of useful information, simple points that you can employ to help defend your home from the devastating effects of wildland forest fire. If at the end of this video you have questions, please feel free to contact your local fire department or the Office of the State Fire Marshal.
I'm Jim Smalley of the National Fire Protection Association. As a homeowner living in areas where wildfires can occur, you can protect your home and preserve the environment around you by taking a few simple precautions.
First, before you buy land for a home, check with local officials to see what fire protection is available. Keep in mind that some areas are less naturally fire safe than others. For instance, during a fire, narrow canyons become natural chimneys, drawing in fire and accelerating its rate of spread. Locate your home on the most level portion. Fire spreads rapidly, even on minor slopes. If you're building a home on top of a ridge, it's also very important to build an adequate setback, at least 30 feet for a single-story home, to prevent the house from being hit directly by flames and heat moving up the sides of the ridge. Pre-construction planning shouldn't stop with the home itself. Consider that in the event of fire, firefighters need to be able to get to your site. You'll need two-way roads with parking lanes to allow fire trucks and emergency vehicles plenty of room to get in and out. And since these vehicles may have difficulty climbing steep roads, build your road with a gradient of less than 12%. Any bridges leading to your home should also be wide enough and strong enough to support firefighting vehicles. A 40,000-pound minimum is recommended, but check with fire officials about local requirements. If your site has a cul-de-sac, make sure the radius is a minimum of 45 feet, wide enough for a fire truck to turn around without having to back up. A loop or U-shaped driveway provides plenty of access for firefighting equipment and an alternate escape route for you. Be sure to mark your location with a road name and house number clearly visible from the road so firefighters can find you.
Whether you're building a new home or retrofitting an existing one, you can work with building contractors, your architect, and fire protection agencies to create a design that's both aesthetically pleasing and fire safe.
There are many people in there that have bits and pieces of information that individually need to be brought together and produce a sort of an umbrella of information that would be available to the design professions. And that's not just architects, that's planners and landscape architects.
I think that many landscape architects, as well as other design professionals, are not aware of all of the do's and don'ts of protecting structures in life within the urban wildland interface.
The best thing is cooperation from the start. You know, it's iron out the problem areas, try to work out the problem areas, identify them, and then you know, work out solutions to those problems as soon as possible.
What we asked the developer to do was present a variety of opportunities that could be exploited through the project master plan that would be adopted through our process. The applicant came back with those suggestions. He, of course, consulted with the fire protection districts.
There are lots of situations in this particular part of the country where people have built into subdivisions that really didn't have adequate planning from a fire point of view. And so we have areas that we're very concerned about putting firemen into the area to save the houses. And we really feel that if we do have a fire in some particular areas, that we may just have to let the house go because it would be a suicide mission to put our firemen in there to protect the houses. These are houses that don't have an adequate water system. They have long, narrow driveways. They have less than 30 feet clearance around the structure. They have shake roofs, root sides. They have big bay windows with nice trees growing up through the decks. And as far as we're concerned, these are areas that we're actually going to have to write off. We will not be able to save these houses.
Fire officials say that non-treated wood shake roofs, which catch wind-blown sparks, are the #1 cause of home losses in wildland areas. So your roof should be made of non-combustible or fire-resistant materials. Some jurisdictions may allow the use of factory-treated wood shakes, but you should check this with your local authorities.
You may think that roof sprinklers could prevent a wood shake roof from burning, but they could provide only a false sense of security.
In the event of fire, you'd need large volumes of water to really make the roof safe, and water pressure is generally at its lowest during a fire. The electricity needed to pump the water may also fail during a fire crisis. Also, the high winds which often accompany wildland fires can divert the sprinkler spray from the roof. Like the roof, Exterior walls should be made of fire-resistive materials from the ground to the roof line. It also helps immensely to keep flammable vegetation, wood piles, and debris away from the walls, but we'll talk more about that later. To ensure that you don't create your own spark hazard, screen your chimneys with non-combustible wire mesh screening. Also, cover your exterior attic and underfloor vents with wire mesh no larger than 1/2 inch to prevent sparks from being drawn in and catching fire. Sparks can melt through plastic or nylon screening. And if you're building a new home, locate your under-eave vents near the roof line rather than near the wall to prevent heat or flames from being entrapped. For the same reason, the eaves themselves should be boxed or designed with minimal overhang. You should also screen under your porch or any other areas below the ground line, again to keep out sparks and flames. Where windows are concerned, thick, tempered safety glass is the safest choice, especially for picture windows and sliding glass doors. It may be possible to use double pane glass instead, but you should contact your local fire officials to see what's appropriate. Again, if you're building a new home, minimize the size and number of windows on the side of the house that would likely be exposed to a fire, the downhill side, or both. Also, windows should not face trees or shrubs that are closer than 30 feet away. On the outside, protect windows and sliding glass doors with non-flammable shutters, balconies, or decks. Fire-resistant drapes add extra protection inside.
Welcome back. Well, the front's still off the coast here on the for the southern coast, so southeast 30 knots. Up here it gets nudged inland a little bit there, so winds could be coming southwest, dropping off to 20 knots to as low as 10 knots on the north coast. For Clarence Strait, southeasterlies 30 knots, so seas at least 6 feet. And then for Frederick Sound and Stevens Passage, southeast at about 20 knots. Northern Link Canal, south 20 knots, some higher gusts, seas 4 feet. Then for Thursday, we got gales from the south here for the south coast, 35 knots. Gales all along the coastline, more southeasterly for the north coast, and southerlies at about 20 for the central, northern inside water areas, and a gale also for Clarence Strait, southeast 35 knots, seas 9 feet and higher down toward Dixon Entrance. For Cook Inlet, northern Cook Inlet, winds light tomorrow, south at about 10, 15 here for the southern inlet. For the Barren Islands, Kamishak Bay, southwest 20. Same thing for Shelikof Strait. Small craft advisories here for the east side of Kodiak Island. Otherwise, southerly winds 20 knots to the North Gulf Coast and a light southeast breeze there for Prince William Sound. A little more than a breeze on Thursday, east 30 knots in the forecast there for Prince William Sound, seas 7 feet. Gales here from the North Gulf Coast, southeast 35, 16-foot seas, 30 knots to the western coast, and then southwest 40 knots here off the coast of Kodiak Island, but only 20 for the Barren Islands, northwest 15 for Kamishak Bay, westerlies 25 or so for Shelikof Strait. And going to Bristol Bay, south winds 20 knots there tomorrow, seas running at about 6 feet. Otherwise, southwest gales here in the Bering Sea side of the peninsula, seas up to 17 feet there. And small craft advisories from the southern or the Pacific side of the peninsula right up to Kodiak Island there toward Sitkinak, south winds at 30 knots. And for Thursday, gales everywhere. West winds 40 knots for Bristol Bay, 45 knots here. Almost a storm, but not quite for the Alaska Peninsula. But those seas 21 and 22 feet here on the Pacific side and up to 26 feet on the Bering Sea side of the peninsula. And for the Aleutians, tomorrow we've got gales the entire stretch of the coastline here. Again, coming close to storms, but southwest to southwest 45 knots there for the eastern Aleutians. Westerlies 35 to 40 knots to the central Aleutians with seas running anywhere from 17 to 24 feet. And then for Thursday, west winds at 30 out here in the west, and then gales right through here. Adak and Atka west 30 knots, but full gales here, most areas around the eastern Aleutians. For the southwest coast, northern Nunivak Island, southeast at 20, northeast 20 for St. Lawrence Island. Brisk wind advisory here for the northern Bering Sea. West winds 40 knots for the Pribilos with seas 18 feet, and south winds 25 knots here coming up, blowing in toward Kuskokwim Bay and Nunivak Island. Then on Thursday, swings around to the still westerlies, or westerlies of 40 for the Pribilofs. Northwest 40 knots here south of Nunivak Island, but gales extend up to the north part of that zone as well. North 20 knots, so lightening up for St. Lawrence Island. Still looking at northwest 25 and heavy freezing spray here for those winds blowing off the ice edge. Arctic coast, east winds 35 knots for the central coast and all of the eastern Beaufort Sea coastline tomorrow, right out of the east and northeast 35 knots here for the west areas down to the Capes. Northeast much lighter here from Wales to Cape Thompson, northeast at 15. Those will pick up a little bit on Thursday while everyone else here drops off. Brisk wind advisories to the central western Arctic coast right down to the western Capes there, and easterlies coming down to 20 knots, so definitely a change, lightening the winds up considerably on Thursday for the eastern stretch of the coastline. For tonight, you have this front moving northward. That's going to keep the squeeze on the atmosphere there and keep those winds blowing with the winter storm warning here for the western Arctic coast, as well as the Kobuk and Selawik and Noatak Valley areas and into the Seward Peninsula with the weather advisories a little farther to the south. So we'll have the high wind warning out as this low pulls northward this evening until 10 p.m. Could see some gusts of 70 miles an hour through the passes of the Alaska Range. This front really having trouble making much eastward progress. Again, for tomorrow, so we have the 30-knot winds on the south coast and lighter to the north. And that next system really plowing eastward here moves to well, about the Barren Islands on Thursday, with the front advancing out, kind of overrunning this trough with bringing the showers through the panhandle overnight Wednesday night, and the rain kind of catching up to the north. So pretty wet conditions from the North Gulf Coast, but this precipitation not making it too far inland, and a broad area of west-northwest winds and snow showers over all of the Bering Sea. Pretty gusty winds here blowing right into the Alaska Peninsula for snow and possible blowing snow and reduced visibilities with snowfall levels all the way down to sea level. That's a look at the weather. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you again tomorrow.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.